Hello, lovely beings. I'm JJ Rose. Well, I thought it would be a good idea for me to do an episode on chords, attachments, hitchhikers, possessions, channeling, just to kind of clear up a few things across the board. I am sure it will come to pass in the coming months as to why I'm doing this specific episode, just to make sure that I'm being absolutely clear in what I'm talking about. So, a lot of people I've heard use some of these things interchangeably, but there are differences. So, that's what I wanted to go into today. On each of these, I will try to mark it out in the description in case you want to skip ahead of which one is which with the timestamps. All right, on that note, let's start with chords. So chords are between living people to living people. They can also be between people and animals or other objects, which I know sounds a little funky, but everything has a soul, everything has a vibration. So if it can be attached to in any sort of way, then there is a way that a chord can present itself. So here's a few examples. Our parents. Typically, those are the first chords that we make. There is an energetic chord between you and each one of your parents. It goes both ways, so you to them, them to you. It also goes between friends, when you've been in relationships with of any kind, even coworkers, and sometimes just people that you meet randomly in your life, like the barista at Starbucks, or your local bartender, someone that you've made some sort of energetic connection with. Now, for the most part, people, the stronger the connection, obviously the stronger the chord will be. For some people, over time, not seeing that person, not thinking about them, there being no energy exchange, the chord just kind of withers and dies and goes on its own. But for people who are extremely sensitive, as I feel like most of you out there listening to my kind of stuff would be, there is a very specific reason why I'm bringing up chords and the importance thereof to check them. And that is because chords, especially if you're very sympathetic, empathetic, and sensitive to other people, having strong chords to other people can cause you to feel what they are feeling. And sometimes you're not even around them. So there was a point in my life when I was feeling very heavy, very weighed down. I would get these really dramatic emotional ups and downs and spikes and get angry out of absolutely nowhere, sad out of nowhere, or all these weird feelings. And I had nothing in my life to substantiate where and how I was feeling these things. So finally, it kind of dawned on me, it's time to do a chord check. And I checked and I had 92 chords. And out of those 92, there were about 70 that were really, really strong. Now, granted, I do have a lot of people in my life. I know a lot of people. I just am out with a lot of people for the majority of my life, due to life, work, friends, etc. But realizing I had all these different really heavy, heavy chords with these really, really intense emotional swings that I was having made me kind of reevaluate what was going on. So at that point, I did what I call a chord clipping. So a chord clipping for myself was I went through each individual chord and I found the ones that were not healthy. I found, not founds. Wow, English. I found the ones that weren't healthy, meaning they were huge on my end of receiving, but on their end, they were very small, i.e. the friendship energetic was out of balance. I was giving a ton, they were giving barely nothing, but whenever they would feel these very strong emotions in their life, that basically would translate to me, which is why I was getting all these random mood swings and thinking, what is going on? So I went through, and in essence, chords to me, depending on who they're from and how fresh they are, some of them kind of look like small umbilical cords. I have seen some that look kind of like big gnarled stalks of trees, and or I described it in one case kind of like a rose bush, the stem of a rose bush when it gets really old and gnarled. like that. And some of them at times, when they hit your head or whatever part of the body that they're corded to in specific, they can actually grow like roots within because they really want to stay. I had one that instead of roots, it was almost like razors or daggers within the person. So when I went to rip it out, it not only physically hurt, but energetically hurt as well. That was not a healthy cord. Normal energetic attachments between people that is a normal healthy friendship or relationship would not try to cord that deep. That usually has something a little more sinister going on, and that can happen even if the other person does not intend or understand they are doing it. Now, on most of my episodes, I try to discuss how important mental health is, checking in on your mental health. And this is why I'm probably tripling down on cords in specific, because for a lot of you out there who have really close friendships, relationships, or energetic attachment with other people, if all of a sudden you're starting to have mood swings, or if you're feeling emotions stronger and you have really no reason to feel that way, and you've done all the internal audit work of, could it be hormones? Could it be I haven't eaten? Could it be, I'm upset about something and I need to do some shadow work on it? And, or, for whatever reason, something physically is happening in your life that would constitute that type of feeling or reaction. If you've done all that and there's still no reason that you're feeling the way that you're feeling, that's when it's a good time to do a cord check. You can do it on yourself. Basically, you can take your hand, of course, ground before, level up, meaning your rod to God, with source. Make sure that you are cleansing and clearing yourself, and that you're in a really nice, gentle, energetic state while you're doing this. And then for me, I use my hand because it's easier, but I use my hand to close my eyes, and I basically go over my body about like 3 to 6 inches from my actual skin, sometimes a little closer depending. And the places where I almost feel like my hand isn't able to go, that's usually where there's a cord. And then you can put your hand or your fingers on the cord and then ask, who is this to? And usually the person's face or name will pop up in your mind. And then you test the cord. So you want to see how big is it on your end, and then also put your hand out to see how big is it on the other end for the other person. And then also just in your mind, kind of evaluate that relationship. Is that a healthy one? Have they been drawing too much from you? Is that okay? Because sometimes it is. Your friend or whoever the person is, they're going through something and you want to be there for them. But then there are times when, okay, they're going through it. They've been going through it for a good 15 years now, not getting through it. They refuse to get help. I don't want them siphoning off of me anymore. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll clamp down on the cord to actually stop the energy flow from me out. And at that point, if that feels really, really good to me, then usually I will pull the cord. And when you pull the cord, just like anything, think of it as you're opening up a wound, you need to seal the wound. So then I'll put my hand over that area. Usually my hand gets very, very hot, and it's almost like it's cauterizing where that energetic cord came in order to close it. There have been times when I've gone over a pulled cord area and my hand has gotten cold. And the reason for that is because maybe that cord was so energetically hot that you need to kind of cool the area off in order to help seal it. Now, when you do that, it doesn't mean that the cord can never regrow again. It doesn't mean you're severing your relationship with that person. It means you are severing that specific emotional, energetic connection with them in order to regrow, hopefully, a healthy cord in the future. Now, I'm sure I've told this story before, but there was one situation where I was actually working with another practitioner at the time, and we ended up realizing that this one specific cord that I thought was okay, that the person was siphoning off me the way that they were, it wasn't okay. It was bleeding me pretty dry, but I, as a good friend, just wanted to be there for them. So in realizing, okay, this is unhealthy, we decided to slow down the siphon of the cord for that time and then pull it, because that energetic interaction was not healthy for me. So I pulled it, and literally within 30 seconds, this person called me. And this person did not normally call me. We normally used other methods of communication. And so to get a phone call that quickly, and both myself and the practitioner I was working with started cracking up, just saying, wow, I guess they felt that very quickly. So yes, when you do cording work on yourself and you are removing unhealthy cords from other people, they can feel it. Even if they don't think they are sensitive, psychic, whatever word you want to use for whatever we are. But most people do feel it, and or all of a sudden they feel tired and they're wondering why, and it's because they're not bleeding off of you. Now, again, this is up to your personal discernment. If you want that energetic cord to be the way that it is, again, if the person's going through a hard time, that's fine. But if you audit and you say, nope, this is no longer healthy, and or nope, this person has way too much control over my energy, or especially if the cords are in your head, your thought process, then it might be time to clip that one and move on to a new one. All right, next up, attachments. So attachments can happen with a multitude of different spirits. Attachments can happen with humans. It is very rare for an actual living human to have a spirit attachment to someone else. It's usually someone who either knows how to remote view and or astral project, and sometimes if they're hanging around in a space they don't need to be in and you've asked them politely to leave, that's when you need to cut that attachment and or have a good conversation with them. For the most part though, attachments happen with ghosts, spirits, dark entities, oogly booglies, and dark passengers. And I promise I will get into dark passengers because they are a wee bit different than dark entities. So with ghosts, as we know, ghosts are people who were alive, they are no longer alive, and they chose to stick around. Not always the best of the best to have an attachment to one, simply for the fact that usually they are siphoning off your energy. You're probably feeling very cold most of the time. And furthermore, you're probably pretty tired too, to be honest. Dark entities, obviously, you're going to feel exhausted. This is usually when, no matter how much sleep you're getting, you're going to have dark circles under your eyes, and you're probably going to feel like you need to take, a huge vitamin IV at the end of every day. You're just going to feel depleted. Dark entities, usually there's a whole lead up to that. I have a whole other episode on entities. If you have not heard that, I do request that you hearken back to that in order to understand what I mean by dark entity and kind of what they do. But there is a prelude in order to get a dark entity. They don't just show up and you get one day. Oogly booglies, these are part of the lead up to a dark entity, but basically these are just kind of little dark entity creatures that their job is basically just to feed off of negativity, and they will attach on to people who have negative emotions going on or even negative stuff going on in their life, and they kind of keep them in a cyclical cycle so that they won't reach out and get help. And the reason for that is it's a symbiotic relationship, right? So they get fed off of the negative energy. So if you start feeling better, obviously they're not getting fed. They want to keep their food source, so they kind of keep things going. And that's usually when a little bit down the line, the dark entities start coming in because they let each other know there's an ample food source here, and they've broken it down enough in order for more attachments to hang on. All right, dark passengers. I don't think I've talked about this before. Maybe I have. I honestly don't remember at this point, so time for a quick review. Dark passengers. These are attachments with an entity, usually when the person is very young. And they can be ghosts, meaning they were a person, they died, they wanted to stick around, but then they kind of merge with the dark side. These are typically not, the most beautiful, wonderful people when they were alive anyway. So it kind of makes sense that when they pass away, they don't want to fully cross over. Usually they're a little bit afraid of consequences. And secondly, they kind of merge with the darker side of things and pick up on like a dark entity type energy. So it's basically an overlap between a ghost kind of turning into a dark entity. The reason I call them dark passengers is because when I tend to see them with people, they present as a ghost, meaning they look like a human being. They are never really good looking. I've never seen one that looks like a stand-up person at this point. Usually they're very unpretty to look at. We'll put it that way. They are not handsome. They don't, their faces are usually a bit disfigured. I've seen some that come up, wearing biker gear or leather jackets. I've seen some come in like handyman attire. So there's still a part of them that's trying to present as ghost, i.e. human, that is now dead. But there's a much more nefarious energy behind them, i.e. they're merging with the darker side. So when these attachments happen, when the person is young, there's usually a reason. Normally, the person's had either a traumatic childhood or they've had like something really awful happen, or a time in which the child was really scared or in trauma for a prolonged period of time. And these things basically come along because, again, they're attracted to that, or they lived in a haunted location, the human, and basically they find this young human and they attach. And when they attach, the child is in already a state of fear, trauma, pain, anger, guilt, whatever. And so the child actually likes this being. This being presents themselves to be helpful to them when they are young. It can make them feel more powerful. It makes them feel less afraid. It can present in all sorts of different ways. I've seen this, unfortunately, far too many times, and I would like to admit, but it happens, and it unfortunately happens more and more the older I get in seeing people. And usually when I have the conversation with, the human that it's attached to, this dark passenger, I will almost always be able to suss out exactly when it attached itself. And there was 98% of the time, people are able to pinpoint what was going on in their life. And it was usually something, painful, traumatic, or awful. So these dark passengers, they make themselves useful to the host in the beginning. And then as the person ages, the human ages, these dark passengers, I don't know how to phrase this other than how I'm going to phrase it. So they kind of get their jollies off by almost writing the person. And then the person in turn allows them use of their body in order to kind of play. So it's kind of like possession, but it's not, because they step in and out. Now, again, unfortunately, when the dark passenger is in the driver's seat of the human's body, usually it is drugs, alcohol, or horrific behavior that is being exhibited by the human. And usually that behavior, as long as the person keeps the dark passenger, is pretty consistent and or ramps up the older they get, and can go for a prolonged amount of time. So I've seen this presented in a person who was a quote unquote alcoholic, but not an everyday alcoholic. They would go on binges, and they go on binge for like a week or 2 weeks, and everyone around them would say it was like I didn't know them. They just wanted to drink and be alone. It was very weird. Like they didn't want to hang out with people. And anyone who knew them, who was around them, said it looked like someone was wearing my friend's body, is the best way to put it. These are not demons. These are dark passengers. They are obviously not of the light. I wouldn't want one. But I have worked with several people who know they have them and they want to keep them. And unfortunately, in the work that I do, if someone wants to keep it and not to clear it, I have no right to do anything about it. Even though, of course, in my opinion, it would be for their highest good or it would make their life so much better. But it is their choice. If they want to keep it, that is their choice. If you know someone with a dark passenger and you're wondering, how can I help this person? How can I reach them? You can talk to them about it. You can talk to them about their behavior when this thing is writing, and hopefully open up their eyes to get them to the point where they won't want this entity, using them anymore. But again, it's not up to you. So what I've done in various cases, if I basically just put it into prayer and asked that the human understand that this thing is not working for their highest good, obviously not knowing their soul contract and anything else. So again, not my business. This is why we don't judge. But in that instance, all I basically do is just pray, hey, I wish them the absolute best. I really, really hope that they can get through this and release that. Okay, that was Dark Passengers. A little bit heavy. All right, moving right along to Hitchhikers. I did not coin this phrase, someone else did. I don't know who it was. Kudos to you, whoever it was, but it is a really good terminology to use for what an actual hitchhiker does. So an attachment, just to review, an attachment is when the entity basically sticks to the person and feeds off of them and or uses them for whatever reason. Okay. Whereas a hitchhiker is different. It basically uses the host, human is the host in this case, in order to quote unquote hitch a ride, which is why hitchhikers. So, some people, I think this probably came up more with like some ghost hunting people who were going to graveyards and then they would realize something left with them and came along for a ride. Definitely with ghosts, especially if the ghost feels that they're bound to whatever location they were at, and then they find someone with just a little bit of an opening who isn't going to know, isn't going to sense, or they can just kind of squeak on by, and they basically just tag on to their energy and hitch a ride to another location. This is sometimes why people will feel like, I never had any issue before. We moved into this haunted house and then we moved 18 other times, and everywhere we go, this thing is still with us now. That's because it's hitching a ride. It wants to go with you. It may not want to hang out with you all the time once you get to the location, but it uses that human host to hitch a ride. So ghosts, spirits, and when I say spirits, I mean light and dark. Dark entities, for sure. Again, you are their Uber driver, right? Well, not you. Hopefully not you. But the human host is basically the Uber driver moving these spirits who feel or think or are, in some cases, bound to a specific location. And they are helping them move to another location where they can hopefully be a little bit more free. They are not bound to the host. They don't always stay with the host. Sometimes, that old adage of they went to the graveyard, they were driving home, they saw someone in the back seat, and then when they got home, no one was there. Well, the hitchhiker just wanted to get out of the cemetery, right? Like, he wanted to go see some sights. So that's a hitchhiker. So again, when I'm speaking about things, an attachment and a hitchhiker are two separate things. Okay, moving right along to a super fun topic, possession. Not the best. All right, so possession is done by demons, okay? This is a true possession. A true possession is a demonic entity jumping into someone's body and riding them like a Ferris wheel. Okay, they have control of the body, they can walk, they can talk. This is usually in all the scary movies when you see the people talking in other languages they don't know. The one true thing that I have to say the movies and the shows have gotten right is they move weird. They do not move the way a normal human would move. It looks almost like they are kind of like a marionette, like things are just moving all weird and jerky. And it looks strange, it feels strange. Their eyes usually look different when the thing is definitely in the driver's seat. That is absolutely true. I could tell you I've seen people with clear blue eyes who absolutely their eyes look black, and that part is not made up. The part about, no, are they, crawling on the ceiling like a spider? That has happened. Is it normal? I don't think so, but have I seen everything in the world? No. So that being said, it can present in a lot of ways. For some of the cases that I have seen where there's been suspected possession, some of the telltale things were the person smelled different, the person acted different, and people were almost repelled by this person. Whereas normally people, like this person or maybe were indifferent, but now people are like straight up, get away from me. And, if God forbid this is happening to someone in your life where you're feeling all these things toward them and you don't know why, like nothing happened between you, there's no reason you should be feeling, kind of afraid, but more like instinctual. When you're in the wild and you just know, don't go hug that crocodile, like that kind of thing. Like, don't get near this person, don't let them touch me. For me, and several times when the thing was trying to hide from me a little bit, the person kept trying to hug me, and I was physically repulsed by that. That to me was a sign that something is amiss. The reason I mention the smell is because all of us as humans, we all have a particular scent, even with or without, perfume, cologne, or body lotion, etc. And especially if you know someone really well, like you hug them often or you have physical contact, you kind of know there's always like this one physical scent. If that physical scent changes dramatically to the point where you are repulsed by it, and there's nothing, again, physically wrong with this person, like the person's absolutely fine, because there are things that can happen in our bodies that can cause us to smell weird. But if you put all those pieces together, the person doesn't smell the same, you're repulsed by them, they keep trying to get close to you and you don't like that, and you're kind of wondering, why are you doing that? You don't normally act like that. And then you see once in a while their eyes darken, and then every once in a while you might see them, like when they think no one's looking, their body doing these weird jerky movements that just are not them. That's usually when you could say, okay, we probably got something deeper. Now, again, the average person should never be dealing with a possession without somebody assisting who knows how to deal with this, whether that is a member of your local clergy, whether that is someone like me who deals with these things. If you don't know anybody who deals with this, call your local paranormal investigative group. And if you don't have one local, you can email me if you're in another city, state, country, whatever. I'll do a little on the ground work to try and find if there's someone local who can help you if you want someone to go suss out. But seriously, please do not attempt it at home. It is dangerous. It is not something that should ever be dealt with alone. I literally have been called to do this work. Wasn't exactly something I would have, signed myself up for. But even myself, I don't do these alone. I have been blessed with, amazing people in my life who are also light workers, who will back me up energetically with prayer, hold space for me, etc. This is not something that you just jump in willy-nilly, the power of Christ compels you. No, do not do that by yourself, please. Call in reinforcements. If you need to call a church, that's fine. If the church says they're not going to handle this, then start going down the line. If you don't know a psychic or a medium who will handle stuff like this, there are many who will not. They will tell you in advance, we want nothing to do with that. That is okay. It means they understand it's not their wheelhouse. They don't want to deal with it, or they're not fortified to deal with it. Everyone has their thing. It is not for everyone. So again, please, if you strike out there, call a paranormal investigator. Hopefully they will have someone that they work with that can help you. If you strike out on all of those, email me, tell me kind of where you're located and what the issue is. And I'm happy to, I do have a referral system. If I look into it myself, sometimes I can remote view and say yay or nay. There are times when I'm not able to, because there are things that will block my site. And if my site is blocked for whatever reason, I will be forthcoming with that and say, hey, I'm got blinders on this one. That doesn't make sense to me, but usually Spirit will lead me to some referral in order to give you. I really, really don't like leaving people in the lurch with these things. I feel like I'm not doing my job. That's why I'm trying to do these YouTubes, to help all of us strengthen ourselves spiritually, to fortify ourselves, protect ourselves. So A, you don't have these issues to begin with, and B, you can kind of deal with the smaller stuff yourself so that it doesn't lead to the big stuff. Hopefully I beat that one and that everyone understands where I stand with that now. But again, do not play, do not attempt by yourself, not something to be trifled with on your own. Okay. Quick review, real quick. If you guys are doing saging or cleansing of your home, even if you're going to have a minister or a priest or a pastor come in order to do a blessing on the home, please make sure the windows and or doors are open in the location. Because if you do that and the windows and doors are not open, all you have are a whole bunch of entities running around like the Tasmanian devil in the middle of the house. It is not going to end well. So just quick reminder. I feel like I have to keep saying this. Okay, last part, channeling. Why am I bringing up channeling with all of these other things that I've just talked about? Because it is something that often gets overlooked. So true channeling means that you are allowing spirit, light or dark, to work through you. And most of the time it also means enter you, enter your energetic space. I personally don't like anything entering in my energetic space. Nothing is getting in my body. I'm good. So I do not allow that to occur. I do know people who have. I do know people who do. I don't like it myself. Different strokes, different folks. That's fine. You do you. I've heard some people who get, amazing channelings. They let spirit run through. They do automatic writing, which is basically when spirit kind of takes control of your hand and you just start writing things out. I've known people who have channeled and given dissertations. I myself, even when I'm doing these YouTube videos, half of this information is being channeled through me. Now that means I am getting the information from spirit, which is typically why I don't remember what I've said afterwards, and oftentimes have to listen to myself talk, which is a very weird experience, I might add, in order to understand what I've even said, because sometimes I record things and then I'm like, whoa, I said that, and it completely blinked because I'm rolling with it. Spirit's talking, it puts messages in my mind, I am a knower, and that's how I get my information. I do not let anything ride me. I do not let anything come through me. It can get on the outside and give me the information, but I don't want it in my body. Now, if you have channeled and let spirit come through in order for messages, scrying, whatever it is. Some mediums used to do that. That used to be the really big thing, is mediums would actually have the ghosts step into their body and speak, which is why, like in the movie Ghost, I think they did a really good job of showing like the different ghosts sitting in and out of Whoopi Goldberg's character. In that was a good example of what mediums typically the word medium meant. Okay. Medium actually meant allowing the ghost spirit to sit in your body and talk through you. I am a medium, whereas, yes, I can see the dead, they can give me messages, and then I'll relay those, but it's like a game of telephone, right? I'm talking with them outside of myself, and then they give me messages or whatever to pass on. Great, perfect, fine. But no, I don't want anything too close. I like to keep my energetic space mine. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I have started to see a reemergence of people talking about doing channeling, automatic writing, scrying, certain other things that involve direct channeling, i.e. letting things step in. And I want you to be cognizant of what it is and what it means, so that if you're attracted to that, you can do so, making sure that you are completely bubbled up and that you are in full control of what is coming in. The reason why it's super sketch to me for that to be done is because I'm always a bit concerned about, yes, something wonderful and of the light can come through, but sometimes you have lurkers, and lurkers they're not like full on dark energy, but they're kind of gray, i.e. they're kind of neutral, and sometimes they just lurk around and they want to see if there's someone they can attach to or hitchhike on, and or just kind of see what's going on, or maybe they want to see like what it would feel like, and so they'll try to jump in there really quick, and I don't need to be fighting myself. So for me, it's a hard pass. But again, if you're drawn to it, there are very, very safe ways you can do this. I know this is very strange, but one of them is actually to, while you're doing the channeling, before you allow anything in, to have your feet submerged in warm salt water. It can be like a little bucket or a bowl, and you have warm salt water, and then put a little rose oil or rose petals on the water. That actually can help your human body be grounded while you're doing this process, and also protect it. There's also anointing oils that you can use for this. If you have a spiritual shop in your neighborhood or a good witch shop, they, I'm sure, have some wonderful protection oils for this, so that you can make sure whatever you are channeling or whatever you're allowing in is actually for the good and the positive, and that you're not going to get anything else. But if you are making that conscious choice to do channeling and let something in, I do request that you do a salt shower afterwards, and that you just have maybe a friend or someone else kind of check you out to make sure there's no residual from anything else that tried to come in while you left an opening. Sometimes when we leave windows open, even when we have screens, we still get flies in the house. Kind of mysterious how that happens, huh? I hope this made sense. I hope this was good information. And obviously, if any of you have any questions, feel free to email me. I would also love any creative feedback. If you guys have episodes that, or topics that you want me to talk on that I haven't already, please email me those. Even if it's just your subject line, like, I want you to talk about this. I would love that. I know I'm supposed to do more content. Things come to me as they come, but I really am trying to do these as a service to help people. So if there's things out there that you have questions about that I haven't discussed already, please let me know, and I'd be happy to do an episode on that myself. All right. Thank you so much for your time and your patience and listening. I wish you all the absolute best for this day and beyond.